welcome to our second podcast. Today we'll be covering time management and motivation with Dr. Eder and Dr. Hensey.
Should we get to the first question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I struggle with being motivated on my off days from school. How can I be more efficient?
You want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I came up with really 3 areas that I think would be helpful. One is just being consistent in your daily routine. The time you wake up and when you take breaks. All of that is really important because a schedule is a way to kind of to get you to continue to follow through. But obviously we deviate from schedules once in a while, so you kind of have to forgive yourself once in a while when you do that. But if you put yourself to a schedule, you develop some muscle memory. And after a while, it becomes something not tedious, but something natural to you. So waking up at a certain time and taking some breaks at a certain time from learning, and then what time you go to bed, keep it consistent because your body gets really confused when you change it up every time. I also think it's important that when you get up in the morning to get dressed like you're getting ready to go to school, instead of lying around in your PJs all day. I know it's comfortable, but what you wear really does influence you psychologically. It influences your thinking. There's a lot of research that even says that how you dress makes you feel a certain way. So I think that would be another way to help you become more efficient and be a little bit more motivated. And another thing I think is just staying hydrated throughout the day. I see a lot of kids carrying water bottles at school. I think that's a good thing. But I wonder if sometimes they forget about drinking water at home. It not only gives you something to do, but it makes you have to go to the bathroom all the time. And that keeps you busy and it keeps you aware, awake, and moving. So I think that's really kind of important.
Okay. I had 2 points to that question. First point is going to talk about planning. And can we all just be honest here? We treat off days from school as days off from school. And those are 2 different things. So of course you're going to be hard to be motivated when you're trying to do a 5-day week in 2 or 3 days while you're at school. You have to be realistic and you have to be honest with yourself about what your week's going to look like, and it does involve planning. And you have to sit down at the start of the week and go, okay, this is what I need to get done, and this is how much time it's going to take. And I start my Monday. Every Monday I have a chart. It's got Monday through Friday and hours 1 through 7 that I'm here at work. And I need to grade this assessment. That's going to take 2 hours. Chunk it in. And I'm realistic. I'm not going to go, oh yeah, I can grade 30 of these assessments in an hour. No, it's going to take me 2.5 hours. So I need to have a realistic plan. And then you get the satisfaction of marking stuff off as you get it done. But all too often we lie to ourselves. We are our own inner saboteur, and we're going, oh yeah, I've got that paper to get done for English, or I need to get those math problems done. I can get those done in 20 minutes and I can squeeze them in here. No, you know dang well it's going to take you 45 minutes to do it. Plus you're going to be throwing your math textbook across the room, and then you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to check the TikTok, and then you're going to come back and try to remember how to FOIL an equation. So you need to be realistic, but you need to have a plan. And the second thing is, you need to look at your environment. It goes right along with dress and time. You have to divide your space into workspace and fun space. And workspace is someplace where you go and that is your dedicated area to do school stuff, even at home. My workspace, when I'm writing my lessons and scoring my assessments, is sitting at my kitchen counter. And I have to sit there. I sit in a hardback chair. It's not super comfortable, but it's also not something fun that I'm doing. But it keeps me focused and makes me think I'm in school. My fun time, when I go watch The Real Housewives or RuPaul's Drag Race or anything that requires no brains, troll my friends on the Insta to see what they're posting, that's on my couch. And no schoolwork happens there. Couch, fun time. Counter, work time. And you have to have those different spaces. And there's 2 fundamental rules you have to keep in mind. No school goes in the fun area. Period. That's your fun area. And no phones go in the work area. Because that's where you need to be focused. And my last thought on that is, I'll ask you guys, your bed, is that a work area or a fun area? Answer that with school in mind. Which one?
A little bit of both. That's not a good thing, though.
That's not a good thing. How do you sit in bed when you're working?
Like straight up.
You sit straight up in your bed that whole time. You never sink into those pillows?
I mean, eventually I start.
You do.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No.
Your bed is designed for what? Sleeping. So it's going to relax you and it's going to make you unfocused. They're designed that way. If beds were hard and upright, we wouldn't sleep in them. So you have to pick your environment realistic for what you're going to do. That's my 2 tidbits.
Okay. Several students have gotten new jobs and are working during the school day. It has become hard to juggle being successful at school and managing classwork. Is there a way to do both?
You can start with.
You want to start?
I'll take that one. You gotta be honest with yourself. That you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, these are what my goals for myself are. Because school is 5 academic hours a day times 5 days a week. So that's 25 hours right there, minimally. Plus a part-time job or a second part-time job, which a lot of them are full-time job, you're talking 60, 70 weeks. You can't pull it all off. So what are your goals? And you have to be honest. Do I just need to pass this class to get out of here and graduate? That's a realistic goal. Do I want to get A's and B's in my classes? Am I an honor student who, if I fall below 97%, I start to have heart palpitations in my class? These are all realistic goals, but you need to know what your goal is. And you have to be honest with yourself. You know, if you're going to be working 60 hours a week, you're not going to come in and get 97% in every one of your classes without giving yourself a stress attack. It's not going to happen. So lower your goal. Maybe I need to get a C. I don't get C's. Since when? Start doing it now. But also make sure you have warning signs. What's as low as I'm going to go to reach my goal? So if my goal is simply to pass the class and graduate high school and I'm focusing on work and I hit 62% or 68% in my class, ding, 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 warning sign, that goal is in jeopardy. So now I need to roll back my hours. I have to give somebody else some hours to cover for me, get that goal back up to 75. Then I can pick up some hours at work. But you have to be honest about what you consider success, what your parents consider success, and what your warning signs are when you're not achieving that success.
I have a couple of ideas here. I have 2 thoughts really. First, I don't really believe students should be working during the week while they're attending school philosophically. I'm just a parent. I just think that they shouldn't really dedicate their time to be working. But there are lots of things I know, factors that influence the decision to work. I'll get to that. They definitely shouldn't be working on their remote days because technically you're supposed to be online doing your schoolwork. And so work really should be reserved to the weekend, or it really should be more like of a summer work thing. I think the other thing students need to do is rethink the purpose of work. Fine-tune their definition of their needs and their wants, because I've asked students to find out whether or not jobs are important because they're contributing to the family income. That's something that we need to know about, and that's something we need to work through with the administration and counselors with to make sure we're supporting you if that is a case in your household. But if it's because you want the latest fashion, or you want the next video game, or you want to go out all the time, or whatever, you just need to rethink a little bit your needs and your wants. Because priority really should be your schoolwork right now. You have the rest of your life to make a lot of money, hopefully. And it's just important that you think a little bit more about the fact that you've got to dedicate more time to your schoolwork. I know that sometimes parents place a burden on their kids. If you want a car, you got to make the payments, or you got to make the insurance payments. I think it's unreasonable for them to require their kids to do that, but I'm not trying to bash a parent that wants to, instill in a kid some discipline to be able to make payments. But I think there needs to be I'll pay this percentage, you pay this percentage, because the payoff is going to be, you're going to be a better student, and you're going to have a future of maybe applying for a scholarship or this or that. So I think it's something that kids need to negotiate with their parents, because I hate to see that all the burden of the finances of a car that might be needed to get to and from practice to be placed on the student. But again, everybody's needs are different in their families. But to me, if you don't have to work because you're being provided for, then I think you should back off on work and concentrate on your school.
Thank you for that. So last year I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities every single day and went to school. I had hours of homework and still budgeted my time really well. And now I find it really hard to stay motivated, and even on the 3 days when I am here, how do I get back to that lifestyle?
I think that we kind of have to channel our negative energies these days into something a little more positive. I feel like we spend a lot of time right now complaining about what we don't have and what's not available to us, whether it's like our sport is not playing right now because the seasons are all screwed up, our clubs are not meeting because of COVID. You know, simply longing for all this stuff doesn't make things any better, so that is going to demotivate you. So maybe figure out a way to channel out some of your energies into something a little more positive, especially if you're not meeting with your club or your sport. What could you be doing outside of that time to get yourself ready and better for it when it comes back to full circle normalcy again? If you're in a club, take the time to, invent some things, look up some things on the internet to make your club better so that when you come back together, you have some good things to work with. If you're an athlete or you're a musician, do some of that, take some of that time to develop your skills outside of it so that when you get back together again, because it's going to come back. And I think we focus so much on what we don't have right now, and that just really causes us the stress. So maybe just focusing on something a little bit more positive.
My question is, why do you want to go back to that? Because I was that person, and I would work late at Belleville West, and I'd do a play or do debate or Model UN or something, and I'd leave here about 5:30. Then, I got a dinner booked with friends, and I'm going to go over and have dinner with friends and hang out. Or I've got to go to this meeting, or I've got to go to the zoo where I volunteer. And then I'm getting home at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then I still got to do home stuff, and you guys still have to do homework. And then the alarm goes off the next day, and the cycle starts again. And by the end of the week, you're like, God, I did all these different activities. I'm in 45 clubs, and under my senior picture, it has 72 things listed, and I'm exhausted, and I'm crabby, and I'm only contributing to each club superficially because I'm looking at the list of things we have to do. I'm running into a meeting at 6 o'clock in St. Louis, and I'm looking at the agenda going, I didn't prepare for this. I'm just going to wing it. That's not what they want. That's not what your advisors want, and that's not what you want. So the pandemic taught me, slow it down, prioritize myself. So now instead of trying to fill every block in my calendar, I have on there, go to the gym. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do it, because I would blow it off to do something else. That's for me to do, and it's so important that you book that in there. And then pick one thing, pick student council, pick your sport, pick Spanish club, pick Model UN, and focus on that and do it well. As an advisor, I would much rather have somebody that's going to come into a play and that's their focus, is their lines, their character, they're there for every performance. Not like, I'm a lead in the show and I have to run and go to this club meeting and then I have this to do and I'm going to be late to this and I'm going to miss tomorrow's rehearsal, because what you get is a shoddy performance. So think about that. What's important to you? What do you enjoy? What do you want to do versus have to do? Prioritize that. Leave time for yourself and don't try to do everything.
I got way behind first semester. How can I work to recover my credits while keeping on track this semester?
I mean, you just gotta make a commitment to go to the teacher that you need help with and the counselor. There's not a single person here that wouldn't go above and beyond to help a student get back on track. You gotta take that first step forward to come to us. We can work with you to get that accomplished. But it can happen.
My question in response to that is, what does this semester look like? Because you're wasting a lot of time and energy worrying about last semester. It's done, it's on the books, it's history. Does it look the same now? Because this is where you can change your practices. So you need to focus on, am I in a good spot now? Okay, what are my options? You do have to talk to your counselor because you're going to have to do summer school or you're going to have to repeat that class next year. That's the truth. Nobody's going to magically give you classes back. And it's going to be miserable and uncomfortable and painful. Retaking classes is not fun. You've already sat through it the first time and you didn't like it. Now you got to sit through it again. But when things fall off and you have to fix it, it's painful to do. You're going to struggle. But when you struggle through something and you come out on the other side, you are better off for it. We don't change unless we struggle. And if that means you have to sit through a summer school class at Belleville West, it's miserable. Nobody's going to tell you differently. But on the other side, you got your credit, and I bet you're not going to get yourself in that same situation again. But stop worrying about what happened in the past. Focus on now until you're solid now and you know not how to make the same mistakes. Then focus on what happened in the past.
So I think we have time for about 2 more questions here, so what do you guys want to do?
I feel like we should do the last one.
The last one?
On the weekend, I tend to push everything to Sunday. So what are some good ways to help balance out my social life, or my school life and my social life?
That was not a question that we were given, so we're just going to give you a winged answer on that. And I refer you back to question 1. Plan. If you know you're going to leave everything till Sunday, don't do it. It's as simple as that. But here's the thing, there was a lot of questions you guys asked us about motivation that we're not going to get to today. And the questions were, how do I force myself to find motivation? And that came up again and again. My teachers just show videos in class. How do I force myself to find motivation? I have to work so much. Motivation can't be forced, period. And I make the analogy of round peg, square hole. Try to put the round peg in the square hole, it's not going to fit, is it? You can tap it, you can pound on it, it's not going to fit. You can take a hammer out and bash it into that square hole, and what's that peg going to look like when you get done? It's going to be splintered and damaged and unusable again. Motivation has to be found. You have to go find the round peg. Maybe it's in the trunk of your car, maybe it's under the couch, maybe it's in your dresser drawer, who knows? But look for and find it. Same thing is true with motivation. If you don't want to be stressed on Sunday night, plan out your week. What's my motivation to do that? To not be stressed on Sunday night and have a social life. So you have to do it. Nobody can make you motivated. It's intrinsic. That means it's inside of you, and you have to tap into what motivates you.
Do you guys have one last question you feel is important that we should
Yeah.
touch on? Go ahead.
So a lot of people have been having trouble with late work and managing deadlines. I feel like it's especially hard since we're not here every day in person. So what would you recommend to do to like deal with deadlines or manage deadlines?
I just always think it's a good opportunity to keep open communication with your teacher if you do have something that legitimately is causing you to have to turn in work late. I do post a time when I want my students to have my work in daily on the remote days. And I usually tell them by 4 o'clock because I want to see the work so that I can plan appropriately for the next day. So I try to make my conversation with my student about the fact that I'm not trying to hit home this deadline to you to make your life miserable. It's because I need to know what you understood today in this lesson so that tomorrow when you come, I can understand where we need to go with this. So I think if you're having trouble with deadlines, again, it goes back to the scheduling and getting into a routine. I think that would take care of itself if you can put together a way to check off the list each day of what you need to be doing and prioritize when you get on Google Classroom, which classes have a deadline. My students have learned quickly that, my extra editor wants her stuff by 4 o'clock, I'm gonna go ahead and get hers out of the way, because my other teacher says, anytime until midnight is fine. So prioritize it so you know which one needs to get out of the way. I think that's the big one. As far as like late penalties and late points, if teachers have those, at some point, I think that probably they have to because it becomes such a backlog of papers to have to figure out, and then we don't really give you the proper kind of time frame of your learning, what needs to come next in your learning process because you're still doing things from 2 weeks ago. I just think it's important to keep the lines of communication open with your teacher and figure out the problem in that particular class that is causing you to turn in that late work. Have that dialogue with somebody, that's really important.
And I'm going to go back to that mirror, and you've got to be honest with yourself. If you're going to procrastinate, are you good at it? Are you going to work to that deadline? Some of you are. Most of you aren't. And you have to be honest with yourself. I give my students their work a week in advance, and there is a deadline for it, and then there's what we call the buffer deadline 2 days later, that if your internet goes out, or you stub your toe, or you decide that you're gonna pick up a shift at work, all those things happen, you can still turn it in, no penalty 2 days later. You know how many students turn their assignment in on the day that it's supposed to be turned in, on the original deadline? If I get one, I'm lucky. Everybody works to the buffer deadline, the emergency, like pulling the emergency brake deadline. And then what happens? They get stressed out, it's too late, they didn't manage enough time, they weren't honest with themselves, and now they're panicking. And who caused that panic? We do it to ourselves. So if you're not going to be honest with yourself, and I don't know who else you're going to be honest with in life, if you're not honest with yourself, and say, look, these deadlines are creeping up on me and I continue to do the same things over and over. If it's due on Friday and I know I procrastinate, in my calendar, on my planner, it's due on Wednesday. Because that way if something happens, I've got a way to fix it. But emailing your teacher at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, you're not going to get a whole lot of sympathy, at least it sounds like from Dr. Utter and myself, because you created that situation, and I'm not here to clean up your situation that you created. I got enough of my own to fix. So you just have to be honest with yourself.
Ben, do you have one more question?
Sure. Oh, I get frustrated when I come to school and all I do is watch videos in Google Classroom. I could be doing this at home. How do I remain motivated when it doesn't even seem it is necessary to be here?
Yep, square around the hole. Guess what? Watching videos is boring. E-learning is boring. You know that, I know that. Grading your work online is boring. I could be sitting where to grade your work when I'm at my house? No, Aaron, you failed. The counter, because that's my workspace, not my fun space. No school in the fun space. I could sit at home and do it. I could not look this fashionable, though I do look amazing when I'm at home. And it would be great. But you know what? State of Illinois says I got to be here. So my motivation is not to get in trouble. Because I don't want to see Mr. Mertens knocking on my door going, why aren't you at work today? Your motivation is to get here. What's your goal? Pass the class, get an A, get a 99 in everything. But you have to be, again, honest and realistic and motivate yourself. And we all know it's boring. Make the best of it. Yeah.
I do think there's a place for students, though, to suggest to the teachers sometimes if you feel like there's some things that you could interact with. We do try to make the best decisions we can based on where you're at with your learning and what the activity and how it suits what we want you to learn. But if you're feeling like day after day you're watching videos and videos and videos and videos, I don't think there's any harm in suggesting, is there some way we can do this that would allow us to be a little interactive with each other in class somehow through group discussion or a group activity of some sort. So, also advocate for yourself a little bit in that regard.
And if given that opportunity, seize it. Last 10 minutes of my class are open for questions that can be submitted electronically. You don't even have to talk. And I get crickets. If I'm going to get up there and I'm going to put on a show and I got the lights and my face is done and I am ready to perform for you, there's nothing worse going out on the stage in the front of the classroom and the audience is asleep on deck. Yeah. So if your teacher asks, ask a dumb question. Just ask something. They're waiting for it. Because continually going out and looking at 15 faces that are just staring blankly at you, that pretty much sucks away my motivation to want to make the class interesting. Y'all got to do your due diligence too.
All right, well, I just want to thank you guys for your time and your input, and thank everyone for watching. So,
Thank you for having me.